Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Chapter 12. Do-it-yourself tranquilizers which bring peace of mind. Tranquilizer drugs which have become so popular during the past few years bring peace of mind, calmness, and reduce or eliminate nervous symptoms by an umbrella action. Just as an umbrella protects us from the rain, the various tranquilizers erect a psychic screen between us and disturbing stimuli. No one fully understands just how the tranquilizers manage to erect this umbrella, but we do understand why this brings tranquility. Tranquilizers work because they greatly reduce or eliminate our own response to disturbing stimuli. Tranquilizers do not change the environment. The disturbing stimuli are still there. We are still able to recognize them intellectually, but we do not respond to them emotionally. Remember in the chapter on happiness, we said that our own feelings do not depend upon externals, but upon our own attitudes, reactions, and responses. Tranquilizers offer convincing evidence of this fact. In substance, they reduce or tone down our over-response to negative feedback. Over-response is a bad habit which can be cured. Let us suppose that as you read this, you are sitting quietly in your den. Suddenly the telephone rings. From habit and experience, this is a signal or stimulus which you have learned to obey. Without taking thought, without making a conscious decision about the matter, you respond to it. You jump up from your comfortable seat and hurry to the telephone. The outside stimulus has had the effect of moving you. This has changed your mental set and your position or self-determined course of action. You were all set to spend an hour sitting quietly and relaxed reading. You were inwardly organized for this. Now all of this has suddenly changed by your response to the external stimuli in the environment. The point I wish to make is this. You do not have to answer the telephone. You do not have to obey. You can, if you choose, totally ignore the telephone bell. You can, if you choose, continue sitting quietly and relaxed, maintaining your original state of organization by refusing to respond to the signal. Get this mental picture clearly in your mind, for it can be quite helpful in overcoming the power of external stimuli to disturb you. See yourself sitting quietly, letting the phone ring, ignoring the signal, unmoved by its command. Although you are aware of it, you no longer mind or obey it. Also get clearly in your mind the fact that the outside signal in itself has no power over you, no power to move you. In the past you have obeyed, responded to it, purely out of habit. You can, if you wish, form a new habit of not responding. Also notice that your failure to respond does not consist of doing nothing, of doing something, or making an effort, or resisting or fighting, but in doing nothing, in relaxation from doing. You merely relax, ignore the signal, and let its summons go by unheeded. How to condition yourself for equanimity. In much the same way that you automatically obey or respond to the ring of a telephone, we all become conditioned to respond in a certain way to various stimuli in our environment. The word conditioning in psychological circles grew out of Pavlov's well-known experiments, where he conditioned the dog to salivate at the sound of the bell by ringing it just before presenting food to the dog. This procedure was repeated many times. First, the sound of the bell. A few seconds later, the appearance of food. The dog learned to respond to the sound of the bell by salivating in anticipation of the food. Originally, the response made sense. The bell signified that the food was forthcoming, and the dog got ready by salivating. However, after the process was repeated a few times, the dog would continue to salivate whenever the bell was rung, whether or not the food was immediately forthcoming. The dog had now become conditioned to salivate at the mere sound of the bell. His response made no sense and served no good purpose, but he continued to respond in the same way out of habit. There are a great many bells or disturbing stimuli in our various environmental situations, which we have become conditioned to and which we continue to respond to out of habit, whether or not the response makes any sense. Many people learn to fear strangers, for example, because of parental admonitions to have nothing to do with strange people. Do not accept candy from a stranger. Do not get into a car with a stranger, etc. The response of avoiding strangers serves a good purpose in small children, but many people continue to feel ill at ease and uncomfortable in the presence of any stranger, even when they know that he comes as a friend instead of a foe. Strangers become bells, and the learned response becomes fear, avoidance, or the desire to run away. Still, another person may respond to crowds, closed spaces, open spaces, persons in authority such as the boss, by feelings of fear and anxiety. In each case, the crowd, the closed space, the open space, the boss, etc., act as bells, which say danger is present, run away, feel afraid, and out of habit, we continue to respond in the accustomed way. We obey the bell. How to extinguish conditioned responses? We can, however, extinguish the conditioned response if we make a practice of relaxing instead of responding. We can, if we wish, just as in the case of the telephone, learn to ignore the bell and continue to sit quietly and let it ring. A key thought that we can carry with us to use whenever we are confronted by any disturbing stimulus is to say to ourselves, the telephone is ringing, but I do not have to answer it. I can just let it ring. This thought will key in your mental picture of yourself sitting quietly, relaxed, unresponding, doing nothing, letting the telephone ring unheeded, and will act as a trigger or clue to call up the same attitude that you had when letting the telephone ring.